you go. Hello.
Hi,
Can you guys
yeah.
hear? You both can hear me?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can hear
sorry.
you. I
Good.
thought it was
Sorry.
canceled.
Yeah, I saw your I just saw your text as I was logging on. I was a little behind on some things I was working on, so sorry about that.
Your skin always looks so good. What is you using?
Oh, uh water and very little else. Thank you
Over
for
here
the compliment.
struggling. Over here struggling.
Good to see everyone. Welcome, Alana. Welcome, Randy. Randy May.
Good afternoon or early evening, everyone.
Yes. It's still daylight now. We're going into daylight savings time. So thankfully we're able to have a have some more daylight to greet us in the evening. So we don't have to adjust to so much so soon, to darkness so soon. That's nice. Yes. I'm going to give a few more minutes for others to join us, and we'll get started. Everyone have a decent week this week?
That was pretty okay, I think.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's good.
It was warm, so I'm happy. Never mind. It was
Right?
warm all week, right? How dare I? Never mind.
How dare any of us, right? We had warmth.
Right.
I had a chance to take a nice walk today. I know that Katie is based in Chicago. Alana and Randy May, remind me where you all are based.
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Okay.
Nice.
Chicago.
Okay. Yes, and you all get cold weather up there too. I don't know if you've had any warming trends, but after our snow, what we like to call our snowpocalypse, we're just getting to seeing more ground than snow in the last week or so, which has been
Yeah,
lovely.
we haven't had any snowy. It was like 17 degrees. Well, because we have Celsius. I forgot what that is Fahrenheit, but it was like 17 degrees here like yesterday or the day before, and then it was like 5 today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You guys are still in that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Understood. Yep. So actually, I said I was going to give a few more minutes, but we can at least start with introductions. And I'll start with the first person I have on my screen, and you all can say what your experience or some of you don't know, many of you don't know each other, what your relative experience has been with Orisha up to this point. I'll start with Aisha.
How did I know you were gonna do that? So I'm Aisha. I don't know. I've been following Deidre everywhere, so I originally got introduced during yoga at Haji. Is it Haji? That's how you pronounce it, Haji. In Chicago. It was basically a Black-owned yoga studio, which was amazing, right in the neighborhood, and there are so many different services offered on Sundays called Community Sunday Sanctuary. And so I got to get a reading with her, and I was just really drawn into it, and I wanted to learn more. And so here I am. So I've been learning.
Next, on my screen, I have Alana.
Aisha, I'm glad you have AI instead of AO because I just knew I was first.
Story of my life, man.
But so I actually met Deidre on I think February 28th. I had a reading with her, which was great. But my interest in Orisha goes back a long time. I was in hair school. I don't do hair because people are very picky. But I went to hair school and I got my clinical hours. So I can cut and color, but I don't do it unless it's for fun. But I met a woman who was wearing beads, and I asked her what she was. She's like, "Girl, don't touch my beads." So she told me, and I've been very interested ever since. I've read books, but I just didn't have a community to go to. So I'm really excited to be here today.
Okay. And next we have Katie.
Hi, everyone. I have a similar story as Aisha. I met Ia getting a reading at Haji. And so, sorry, I'm like running around. And so I started off with a reading with her. And what really propelled me to even go to Haji was the loss of my sister, which kind of propelled me into kind of the new place that I'm at in my life right now. And so through Ia, I have been learning and growing. So yeah.
Right. And Randy May.
So how did I connect with Orisha? Or yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I connected through my dad. So my dad went through like I guess a midlife kind of crisis at some point when I was a teenager. And he was like going back on his own journey. And then he kind of took me with him, and then I got baptized, and like Barbados is where my family's from. So in Barbados, like they practice like they practice through spiritual Baptists. That's what they call it.
Yeah, spiritual Baptist, the Shango Baptist, spiritual Baptist,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I went back to Barbados and I was baptized under Oshun there with my dad. And then my grandfather was from Cuba. So my dad remembers my grandfather doing something, but he never like, I guess, explained it to him. So he tried to pass it on to me, I guess. And then, so I had that experience in my late teens, early 20s. And then I just feel like, I feel like she's there. And so I may not do the same things that I learned or the practices, but I just feel like it's an energy that's always there. So that's how I feel. Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. I'm also a daughter of Oshun. We don't have a baptism in the same way as they do for Trinidad and Trinidad, where they have Shango Baptists and they have spiritual Baptists, but we do have very similar systems. So that will be interesting one day to explore. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Base 2, we were just giving introductions with each other, and I wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself.
What we telling everybody?
Just hello. Oh, Bass too. I know who this is. Yes. So, and that first thing I heard you was, I was like, oh yeah, and it's good you're still chilling out. So we're just basically just giving the same thing as we've done the way we've done introductions before, just our who we are, our name, and how we came to be engaged with Orisha work. What our introduction has been. So we have folks who have had varied experiences with us. We have a person with experience in spiritual Baptist, which is an Orisha tradition out of Barbados. We have folks who have had readings, many of whom you know here, and so just wanted to give everyone a chance to share their experience.
Okay. I am Antonica, and I am everything. I'm in a good mood today, y'all. I'm everything. No specific like religious background, probably like Baptist Methodist, but other than that, I was introduced to Ia through a great friend of mine, and Ia and I have been working together for about a year, almost a year.
About a year. Yeah, it's been almost a year now. Wow.
So just building our relationship, learning from her, learning from my god sisters, and enjoying our meetings and stuff that we have, prayer meetings that we have together. And I'm just open to learning more. That's about it.
All right. And we have next we have Joy. Joy was just doing a general introduction.
Hey, everybody, good evening. So I was baptized Roman Catholic. I go to Salem Baptist Church. So yeah, I'm just Christian as far as I'm concerned. I feel like Elegba met me in my backyard, and a friend or old friend of mine led me to Ia, and I think I've been your goddaughter. It's been a little over 2 years. I have my legays, my warriors, and yeah, that's it. Hey, Ia.
Hey. All right. Ebony, we're just doing general introductions.
Hi, unfortunately, I can't stay. I'm in between meetings. I only have 15 minutes, but I went to your talk with the Haji Salon and I really enjoyed it. So I was like, whatever I can get in those 15 minutes, I'm here for.
Oh, thank you for coming. I appreciate that. Okay, we'll get started. I just want to give everyone a chance. Since the room is fairly small, give people a chance to say hello to each other. Raina, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. Just here to get enlightened. Glad to be here. Just got off of work, so I'm sorry I'm late.
No problem. We
I
got a
sat
little
in
late
one of-
start.
Okay, I sat in one of your workshops through Haji, and so I'm just here for the encore. So
Okay, cool. Thank you. I thought I saw those two names, Ebony and Raina. Good to see you. Good. I'm glad to see you today. So we're going to go with the format we've had previously, which is to talk about we have a very specific format that you all are likely familiar with by now. I'm going to use the same format for this class as I did for the Haji class that I conducted. So we're going to talk about the Orisha, and this one is a little different from others we've spoken about. This one is the Orisha Osun, which is not, which is different from Osun that you may have heard about, or Oshun. This is not Oshun. This is Osun. So this is an entity that resides with what we like to call the warriors. And so this entity is an important part of our worship, but in a way different from what maybe many people have experience with. So I wanted to introduce Osun today. All right. So with that, we're going to get started. I want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. I'm sharing the right screen. Okay, yes, okay. All right. So today we're going to talk about, as we normally do, what the oral literature is, or what and who is Osun, how do we work with Osun, and instead of sharing songs or pray or Riki, we're going to share a sacred story of Osun today. Okay, let's see. Okay, someone's in chat. Oh, someone knows Raina. Okay. All right. So Osun is this staff that you see right here, the silver staff that you see on the screen with the legba, which is the charged energy in the dish. That is a symbol of a legba that we use to consecrate shrines in our home, and the black cauldron Ogun. So these are considered to be and sacred companions in our tradition. One of the initial steps in our tradition for someone who is working with Orisha and working with growing their relationship with Orisha, this is receiving these three Orisha is part of that step. So as I mentioned, a legba is in the dish. The cemented figure in the middle with the parrot feather sticking out. What we're going to speak about today is Osun, which is the silver staff to the side of the screen. So Osun is, as I mentioned, is an important entity, but is a very differently placed from many other Orisha, and I'll explain more about that in a minute. So Osun is an energy that that is connected to our Ori, which I've spoken about in previous classes. So Osun is an energy that's connected to um, our um, our God consciousness because of its role in helping us to be aware of what our needs are that our head may alert us to. So in that sense, I like to call Osun a guardian and protector of our Ori, because our Ori has many needs, right? It has needs to be well taken care of, making sure that we're not quote unquote overheated spiritually or physically, making sure that whatever our needs are, that in terms of our health are addressed as soon as possible. Um, if we have a warning system to our we have a brain, right? We know our brain has different receptors that are connected to our ability to have sensation, and we know that's true about us physically. So what Osun does is connects us to that spiritually. So in a sense, it's because it's connected to the warriors, it's really considered like a guardian to in this pantheon, in this sacred companionship between Olegba and Ogun. It is really the guardian, and it helps to show itself as what I like to call a sentinel. So um, there are in parts of the Osun physically that show that too. So sentinels are those things that warn us, those things that can make us focus on something when we're maybe scattered in our thinking, or scattered in our approach to things, or scattered in our priorities. And so in this sense, Osun is a sentinel that helps to center us so that we are focused on the thing in that moment that means the most for us to focus on. And so it does that. If you guys notice with this particular one and many others, there are four hanging bells that are at the four cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, that are part of Osun. And so when we work with Osun, anyone who has an Osun knows or learns that when those bells ring, that means that they're literally giving you information that you need to pay attention to and alerting you to something. So it literally serves as a sentinel, and it has bells that ring on it in order for it to carry out that function as a sentinel and a guardian. There are some houses that keep Osun as a sentinel with the warriors. So keep Osun by the door, by the floor, by the Orishas. There are others that, because of its connection to Ori and our God consciousness, keep Osun elevated and in a stable place in the home. And so if you have the vessel Ori, which I've talked about before, if you have that vessel Ori, oftentimes Osun will live with that vessel and literally serve as a companion, literally to the physical vessel of Ori. So oftentimes when it's received, people are told to make sure they keep an eye on it, make sure that they have it in a place where it's not on an unstable shelf, so that they can have it in a place in the home where it won't be ignored or won't be made to be either discarded or not paid attention to. So the Osun was born out of a pact of protection that was made between the Orisha Osai and the Orisha Orumila. So Osine is an Orisha that deals with medicine or the herbs of the forest and how they act as medicines and vehicles to transform and give life to things. In this tradition, herbs are very important. They're very like central to practice. They're central to training. They're central to knowledge and growth. And so Osine, in his role as a healer, and Orumila as in his role as the guardian and the Orisha of wisdom, have made a pact together that Osun is at the kind of at the point of connection for. So I find that interesting that you have two healing forces, one of wisdom, one of herbal knowledge, coming together to form a pact that out of which is born this idea of a guardian to our Ori, or a guardian that helps us to be aware of our health needs. So you have the connection and the birth of the connection between knowledge and herbal and health and wisdom literally coming together and making Osun a central force for us to work through. So as I mentioned, Osun is a sacred companion. Oh, how did that happen? Osun is a sacred companion to Olegba and to Ogun. So Osun is considered one of the warrior Orisha. But Osun does not hunt in the forest. Osun doesn't live in the world. But because our Ori is a part of who we are, and it does serve as a guardian to our Ori, we do consider Osun to be one of the warrior Orisha. So another reason why Osun is not as different. So when I'm saying prayers, sacred prayers, I may not necessarily say sacred prayers to Osun in connection to all the other prayers, because Osun does not have initiates. Osun is integral to the practice of this tradition, and actually, so there's no one who's initiated to Osun, but there are different Osuns for different Orisha. So there are Osuns there's Osun in this connection with the warriors. Osun can come in different sizes depending on your needs. There are Osuns that are as tall as human beings because a person's needs an Osun that grows with them in terms of their health needs, because they have certain specific, and actually in some cases serious health needs, and Osun can be as tall as human beings, or they can be as short as this cemented figure that was likely no more than 2.5 inches tall. They can serve as staffs. Osuns can serve as staffs to accompany Orisha to support a person, because it's connected to Ori. It can be connected to different Orisha. There's an Osun that's for the worship of Babaluaye, which offers the same function. And I have that Osun because I also am a owner of the Mysteries of Babaluaye. And so because of Babaluaye's sacred relationship with our health, because Babaluaye is the father of disease, as they say, or the father of the world, and potential and helps us to manage our relationship with the diseases of the world, it makes a lot of sense for that Orisha to have a patron Osun because of his proximity to health. So Osun is a function that is well beyond just having a single set of devotees in worship, because Osun's function can be seen across different types of Orisha, and different, but all having the same connection with health or having the same connection with preserving life even. So Osun is actually very important in that way and very central to our practice in that way. And so in that sense, that also brings me to how Osun is connected to Babalawos. There are different forms of initiation and different forms of priesthood in our tradition. Some of you may be aware. And Babalawos are they are men as Babalawos who happen to be diviners who are under the sacred patron sainthood of Orumila. So they are caretakers of the oracle. Specifically, they're caretakers of ritual, herbal, and spiritual knowledge. And so they have a divine relationship with Osun because of their divine relationship with Orumila, as I mentioned before, who through his sacred pact with Osine, this Osun is born. So Osun has a very important relationship to health, health and knowledge, and those two things kind of coming together through knowledge of that Babalawos have about those things. So, oh, she's coming back into the room. Okay. So, so keep this in mind when you think of Osun. So, and Osun is not something that everyone receives necessarily at the beginning of their traditional work and practice. It's generally because there's a health concern that accompanies that person. That and the health can be different types of health. We oftentimes think of physical health, but it can be emotional health. It could be spiritual health. Different types of health concerns that may befall a person. That Osun plays a role in helping to be a watchman for that person with the Orisha and for that person's Lori. Are there any questions about Osun as I've explained Osun so far? Everybody good? Okay. So how do we work with Osun? I'm gonna move this out the way. How do we work with Osun? So as I mentioned before, Osun, this is actually, I want to point out that this is one of those Osuns that are as tall as a human being. And so this is one that one may receive when one needs that extra support or help, and actually in many cases, I should also say that elders, either in the tradition or a physical age, oftentimes, if they have health concerns, this may be the type of Osun that they may receive, is one that is tall as they are. Okay, so we work with Osun by making sure that we are attending to our health needs. Oftentimes if we're overheated or we're overworked or we're not connected to or paying attention to those things that are happening in our body, in our spirit, in our well-being, that are compromising our ability to really actually engage well with our family, with our friends, with our colleagues. That is something that Osun can serve as a sentinel to shore up that we have those things in hand and handled much better. And in that, honoring our limits, making sure that when we engage in activities, whether it be commitments to people to do various things, either spiritually, personally, work related, that we honor our limits and not overpromise and overwork ourselves. Osun stands on one leg and balances on one leg. And how long can we do that as people? How long can we balance on one leg? Not very long, right? So Osun is very important because in a sense, reminds us of fragility reminds us of potential vulnerability. And there are other Orisha that also have this phenomenon of either being either crippled or being on one leg or having one leg that's strong that they stand on. This is kind of like a feature in this tradition, and Osun record is a kind of like representative of that as well. So, but they oftentimes, also another thing I didn't put here is that although they appear, these Orisha, there are several I'm thinking about, honestly. Babaluaye is one, Osain is an Orisha that is very similarly situated to Osun in that there's no, you don't become a child of Osain in sense of being an initiate of Osain, but Osain comes to perform very specific roles in a person's life depending on what their path and destiny is, and what their needs are. So because Osun stands on one leg, and Osun, for those who have gone through the process of receiving their warriors, we learn how to stand on one leg. Going through that process, we're learning a lot about our balance, number one. We're learning a lot about balance. We're learning a lot about where our center and our strengths are. We're learning a lot about of how we can't stand on our leg for very long without either getting some support or assistance or choosing to do something different with our bodies, like sit down or do something like that. So we learn a lot of lessons about what it means to be to honor our limits, to know that we can not only rely on ourselves, but know that we are part of, either we build or a part of a community that can help us to maintain the balance that we need to have in life, so that we're always able to stand upright. And to know when we have to do something different, when we can no longer stand and we have to do something different in order to be self-preserving. So Osun teaches us a lot of lessons about honoring those limits and honoring where we have strengths, whether those strengths be in community, those strengths be in self-awareness, growing our empathy muscle for ourselves as much as we do for other people, and using it more for ourselves as we do for other people. So Osun has opportunity to really help us to have those really important lessons in order to be able to maintain in this life and to take care of our heads in this life. So, and again, I think I already kind of mentioned this, but being clear that we don't want to overload ourselves to the point where we're not able to stand ourselves. One thing about Osun that's always emphasized for people who receive it is that the need to stand erect, the need to stand erect in life, the need to stand erect in order to see what's ahead, because that's the thing about being a sentinel. If you're slouched over, if you're tired, and if you're not able to have the focus and intention to look ahead, you can't see what's coming. And that's why the Osun generally always has some entity on top of it that represents something that's looking forward in one direction, while it has these symbols that can alert the person who has it if there's any kind of imbalance that's coming into that person's life. So being able to stand and look ahead and see the world and the work and the opportunity and the threats ahead is an important function of Osun. And that's an important function that we learn that we need to incorporate into our own lives from Osun, is to be able to have a life where we can be in balance to the point where we're not blindsided by things that come our way in a way that we are not able to handle them. So Osun helps us with understanding and taking that information in. And of course, listening to our bodies and to our Ori, which I think is implicit in all of this. because the ability to take that information in is part of that ability to have foresight and insight into what's going on with ourselves. Any questions about Osun so far? Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about one particular story in Pataki that comes from the Odu OD. And this is the story of Sasere and and Eleri. I'm going to stop share real quick so we can see each other better. So here's the story of Sasere and Ori and Eleri. So Sasere was a servant in the I thought I put that down there. Sasere was a servant in the kingdom where he lived with Eleri. Eleri was a great ruler, and so Sasere was one of his servants. And well, Sasere was growing in knowledge of herbs, knowledge of how to work with herbs, and how to be of service, particularly as it relates to matters of the head. So Sasere would, even though Sasere was growing in this knowledge of wisdom of how to work with herbs and how to work with different concoctions and medicine, Eleri, who was Sasere's owner, forbid him from making sacrifices and making medicines, even though he was growing in this knowledge of how to do so. So Eleri was undergoing and Eleri was having a hard time trusting Sasere, and it was not it wasn't Sasere's fault. It was others who had come before Sasere that made it difficult, that betrayed Eleri, that made it hard for Eleri to trust Sasere when he wanted to serve him and to support him. So he noticed that Eleri wasn't feeling well. And because he served Eleri, he wanted to give Eleri something to help soothe him and to help him to feel better and to manage his life better. So he made sacrifice to Eleri's head on Eleri's behalf. So that did not go over well with Eleri because Eleri did not trust Sasere. So Sasere went to his diviners to learn what he should do in order to make his life better. And this is a very common theme in many Odu, where the protagonist has a concern that he or she wants to resolve. They can be an animal, they can be a person, they can be a tree, they can be a flower, they can be anything that we believe has or has a consciousness, right? But any entity, and we have plenty of Odus where ants go to their diviners to ask for support. So this is a common theme in birds too. Hens, birds, different types of birds, all have opportunity to petition their diviners to ask for support and to know what to do in order to respond to whatever concerns or needs they may have. So Sasere did the same thing and went to his diviners to ask what he should do in order to have a better life, because he saw that his life with Eleri was not going well, and he wanted to make a change in his life so that he can no longer be in servitude to Eleri and live his own life. So he went to his diviners, and his diviners told him that he needed to make sacrifice of 14,000 cowries to the Iroko tree. So the Iroko tree in our tradition is a tree that exists in Nigeria. in Cuba, that tree is no longer. We don't have the Iroko tree in Cuba, but we do use the ceiba as the sacred equivalent of the Iroko tree because it's considered to have the same, well, really honestly, magical and transformative powers as the Iroko tree. And it's a huge, I don't know if anyone's seen a ceiba or seen what they look like. If you look them up, they're normally very large trees that have very expansive trunks, and similar to how the Iroko tree is in Yoruba land. So so when sacrifices are made at the Iroko tree, this is normally the sacrifice is being received by a sacred being, because the Iroko tree is a sacred being in and of itself. And then actually I'm thinking about doing a class on the Iroko tree itself because it offers such sacred knowledge of and connection to different Orisha. So Sasere left 14,000 cowries to the Iroko tree and he offered a pigeon. He followed through with what the advice that his diviners told him. So he was also told to offer 7 kola nuts at the Iroko tree and to use one each day to talk to the Iroko tree and to do what other things he would need to do that are sacred rites at the Iroko tree. So while he was performing these rites, doing his sacrifices, he was told he was found guilty of what Eledi felt was treason, and Eledi actually wanted to ensure that he was no longer a threat to him, well, a perceived threat to him. So while he was making this sacrifice, Eledi had his guards seize Sasere and make a coffin from the Iroko tree where he made the sacrifice and put Sasere in the Iroko tree. So talk about a turn of events, right? So here he is thinking that, he was performing sacrifice and things are going to go well, but he ended up being put in a box of as if to be made dead at the Iroko tree. And so they made a coffin made of that wood, put Sasere in that coffin, and put him in a river that the Iroko tree sat near. So he was literally put in this coffin and put and pushed out into a river. So at the time that all of this was happening to Sasere, the king of Benin had died, which is a nearby kingdom to Nigeria. I don't know if y'all know this, but Benin Kingdom is literally adjacent to Nigeria. And there are many things they share in common, and spiritually, in terms of practice and all of that. So the king of Benin had died, and the people were searching for a new king. And they had a custom in that kingdom of Benin of welcoming a new king who happened to be a foreigner into the throne. So as they were preparing to search for a new king, they found Sasere in the river in the coffin that he was placed in by Eledi. And so when they found him, he explained his story to the people of Benin in this particular kingdom. And Sasere, after he explained all this to them, they said, "You are a foreigner. You've come to our shores through a miracle, and that we consider your being even alive here a miracle. So we would like to install you as our king." So Sasere went from being a a man who was literally put to death, literally by someone who he thought he would serve to becoming installed as a king in a nearby town in country in Benin, in nearby city in Benin. So once he was installed as the king, as was customary, all of the townspeople from different places and different villages would come to greet the new king. And guess who came to greet Sasere as he was king? Who wants to guess?
Ellery.
Yes. This is also a common theme in stories in Yoruba Pataki, where you would have a someone who made Ebo, was confronted with some conflict, confronted with some problem, um, and they have a comeuppance, and the person who did them wrong has to literally face and confront the very thing they did to the person that they wronged. This is a very common theme in Pataki, in Yoruba Pataki. So Eleri came and bowed before Sasere, who used to be his servant, and as he confronted him, Sasere reminded him of what he did to Sasere. So Sasere said that although he was put into a coffin by Eleri, he would not put Eleri into a coffin. He ordered, instead what he did was he ordered Eleri to stand before him and not to never leave his sight. And so this was how, believe it or not, how Osun came to be. One of the stories that talks about how Osun came to be a servant that stood upright. And so Eleri represents Osun, which is the entity that is standing upright. And Sasere, and there are different parts of this, right? So there's that. So he stands as Osun. And so, and then there's Sasere also represents something very sacred in the Ifa tradition, or in Babala, and for Babalaos also have a sacred staff that they hold. And Sasere represents that sacred staff that has authority. So Sasere's life changed from being a servant to coming to actually have authority in this tradition. And the coffin is considered the vessel that's used for divining for Babalawos. So Osun, from this day forth, as Eleri is Osun, and Eleri actually does mean like the owner of the head. Eleri literally means the owner of the head. And so Osun must always stand upright and never sit or fall down as a result of that reading, of that Pataki. So I want to hear your impressions of that story, of the story of Sasere in Eleri. Because I do readings a lot, I know there's a lot of symbolism and meaning in a lot of what's been talked about in this, in terms of fate, destiny, and how we find sacred symbols and meaning in a lot of these patiki. But I wanted to hear you guys' thoughts and feelings about what goes through on your mind when you hear a story like that.
I'll go, and I am newer to this space, so forgive me for not having a lot of
Oh no,
background
not at
knowledge.
all.
Okay.
This is a beginner's class, but I thought this is an interesting story because Osun is one of those. There are not a lot of pataki about Osun, which is why I wanted to share that one, and not a lot of songs either, honestly. But but I wanted to share a sacred story and just get us to have a discussion about it a little bit. That's all.
Right.
So it's
So
good.
what stood out for me was like being put in a coffin and then my understanding of coffins. And one of the understanding, obviously, is it just thinking about how Sesere went from Nigeria to Benin, floated, and being in a coffin and thinking about transition, like from one space to the other, through a vehicle called a coffin. And not just in this spiritual space, but other spiritual spaces, about how the coffin holds folks as they go through this transition. And so that kind of
Mm,
spoke to me. So
that's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting that he traveled from one land to another, and in that traveling, he actually was elevated, much like our ancestors are elevated. I hadn't thought of that interpretation and meaning connected to that story, but there is something about that, and also that he didn't fight. I believe it's interesting because he made sacrifice and he had this adversity that befell him, but he didn't fight it. He didn't try to escape. He accepted that he had to go through that adversity, but he trusted that at the end of that adversity, that his diviners would have what he asked for. He didn't expect to be put in a coffin. He didn't expect literally to be put in the very thing near the sacred tree, but Iroko protected him in a way too, I think, in a way that coffins do. People are very serious when we deal with that transition about how we want someone to be, how we want them to be presented in terms of, all of that's very important, right? In terms of that sacred right that you're speaking to, Raina. And in this case, the Iroko tree, which Eleri fashioned as an enemy to Sasere, was actually Sasere's protector, right? It literally kept him, he was alive in that coffin. He didn't die in it. And so he literally was saved. Iroko literally carried him to that new land, and he ended up having a life that was akin to what he prayed for and made sacrifice for. But he didn't fight it. He actually went through the process and didn't try to escape. He didn't try to, bang his way out in the river. He just came there and said, I am here. This is who I am. I am a slave to Eleri, and I've come from a foreign land. And they're like, you're just who we're looking for. Come on down. Isn't that interesting? Looking at the coffin as a means of transformation and connection, and carrying someone through a transformation. Anyone else? That was interesting.
I guess for me, it gave me a better understanding of my Osun. Because I'm always just watching it to make sure the bell's not ringing. So now I have a better understanding of what it really means. But the story, what is it called? The Pata, or what is it called?
Pataki.
Pataki helps me understand how great God is, and it makes me understand that it made me think of the story of Elisha and Elijah, Elijah, um, and in the respect of just servitude, and always wanting to, in your brain, do the very best that you know to do, even to the point where you're going to get divined, and it may not turn out the way you want it to, but in God's infinite wisdom, when the Bible says all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord, and he really trusted and believed, and it didn't look right, but it sure all worked out right. So, just as you believe that you're going down one road, wisdom, you're really going down the road that you were called to go down. So never just, not trust, even if it don't look right. So that's kind of what I got.
Mhm.
And that's it.
Okay. The whole point of trust and how trust and faith played a role in his capacity to accept who he was and accept his opportunity for growth and transformation. Mhm.
I think for me, I saw a lot of myself in Cecily. But the part where now that I'm getting the knowledge of is, and kind of enlightened by, is the fact that he was putting his needs first. And then to go get divine and then just honoring that. And because he was so firm in what they wanted for themselves, no matter what was ahead. And I don't know if it was like explained in the story, but being erect to see, what was ahead for him, and just being able to go through that transition, it kind of hit me in a space I needed it to not be so in my head about it and to just go.
Hmm. I see your Brandy Mae's brow is furrowed.
I just being in the space started to make me, it like made a connection, not exactly to who we're referring to today,
Hmm.
but it just made something else click. So it's not relevant. I'll share. I'll just take
It's
up 2 seconds
okay.
to share.
It's open.
That's why my
Okay.
brows are furrowed, because then it clicked something, and then I went and searched something. I was like, oh my gosh, how did I not know this? So there's like Oshun Mare.
Oh, Shumare.
Yeah. And I was like, of the rainbows and stuff like that. And I
Yes.
see rainbows all the time, like just ridiculous how many rainbows I see all the time. And it just never, it just clicked while listening to this story. And so
Oh,
that's
that's
why my
interesting.
face was like, oh my God, like this just clicked. Sorry.
Hmm. Yep. Shumare is an Orisha that we affiliate with the rainbow. And Oshumare is very well worshipped in Brazil. Oshumare exists in various diasporan traditions, and there has been discussion about whether or not Oshumare is even still worshipped in Yoruba land, but it is for sure worshipped in Brazil. Well, hello there, friend of Randy May, friend, child,
That's
or
my
whomever.
son. Sorry.
Hello, son. How are you? No problem.
Good.
Yes. Glad to see and hear it. Um, so so yeah, so Shumare is largely affiliated with being a male Orisha, um, and actually represents I think one of the sacred domains of Oshumare is a waterfall for sure. Um, and Oshumare is really a very closely aligned with Olodumare because of as a guardian of Olodumare and having a sacred role because of uh, their role to see the infinite and to see the possibilities beyond what the eye can see and to manifest that on earth. And Olodumare's role as the container of all possibilities, as I've mentioned before about Olodumare, which is the infinite being that we consider to be God, that we don't have an ascribed personality to in terms of or assigned gender to or assigned anything. Olodumare is just it.
Yeah.
It is not anything else but it.
Yeah.
It is all, right?
Yeah.
So Oshumare is very very well connected to Olodumare that way. So that's interesting.
Yeah, thank you. No, my brain clicked and I was like, I was like, oh God, like how did I not know? So thank you for explaining that. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. No problem. I have things I can learn more about Oshumare. A lot more. So any other thoughts or insights into Sasere and Eleri? I think there's a lot in this in terms of learning about Osun and adversity, because and the fact that Sasere, Sasere, in himself was definitely not able to, for a while, had to be erect, but had to be literally laying down in order to be found and brought back to life as we know it, right? With the Iroko tree shielding him. So there's a lot to be said about, I think, in this story about having the patience and the clarity to see that even if we do come across really, really horrible circumstances in our lives and things that really make us really question who we are, question what we are, that we can still find some redemption and we can still find some connection to what's after that. So I think it's also a story of perseverance and a story of persistence that we normally don't see um, in other faiths. Sometimes with no judgment either. The people of Benin didn't judge Sasere for what he did. He made and we believe the Iroko protected him from that too. That protected him from judgment and all of that. Because he was able to, in our tradition, making sacrifice supports opening the portal to new opportunities and possibilities in one's life, right? So the fact that that Sasere made that sacrifice helped to, it was like he didn't have any more debt to pay for what he did. He paid that debt to the Iroko tree, and the Iroko tree accepted that debt, and in turn for accepting that debt, supported Sasere so that he can literally be taken on a road to a new life. Although his enemies assumed that they were ending his life, he was ending his life. He was ending his contract to be a servant. He was ending his contract to be condemned. And because he made sacrifice, that ended that contract so that he can literally be taken through the river through Oshun's dwelling, interestingly enough, to another life. So there's a lot of interesting things about this Pataki and how Osun can be, how Osun was born out of this idea of people having the opportunity to go through trials, go through tribulations, go through a death of a certain thing in order to have a renewed life. And that Osun literally is like the eye of the needle of that process, right? That because Osun is a signal that can warn us about something, that can literally take us through. It doesn't mean we can't always avoid certain things, right? But that eye through the needle can literally lead us through something different and better. And the acceptance of that is important too, right? Because sometimes we hold on to things that we thought we should have had, or we thought we should have had possession of, or had control of, or had connection to, that we have to let go of in order to accept something new, something different, something we would have likely never experienced or never conceived of for ourselves. And that's what the sacrifice opened up for him to experience through the lens of this tradition. Yeah, so I think it's a very interesting story. Because like I said, there aren't a lot of songs to Osun, and only those who go through the rite of receiving Osun know the song and sing the song. So that's why I'm not singing any Patakings for Osun, because it's really a part of a very specific process and ceremony that one goes through. But we have about 20 minutes left. I wanted to give people more chance to to ask more questions or just speak more generally about things you'd like to talk about. Or if you have any other reflections about Osun and how Osun came to being. There are other stories in other Odu that talk about how Osun came to be, but I wanted to share this one because I think it is richly layered with a lot of opportunities for us to explore lessons from Osun. And I didn't say hello to you. I'm sorry, I didn't say hi to Amber. I let you in, but I didn't say hi because I was in the middle of the class. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you? Sorry to be late.
Good. Oh, that's okay. I know you probably had a long day today. Yes, Raina?
I just have a question, just about like who makes the Oshun.
Oh, the Osun?
Yeah.
That's a good question. So that is a good question. I would say in our tradition, we covered a class earlier on Ogun, and we talked about Ogun being the sacred blacksmith who owns all the metals of the earth and who is and supports our ability to shape anything that is raw and unrefined from the earth and to shape it into something too useful and innovative and that supports our comfort and our ability to have more comforts and more opportunities to advance as a society. So Ogun and Ogun's children, blacksmith, literally make our lives worth living in ways that other Orisha's children do not. So we have in this tradition a lot of sacred items that are made for ritual use, and there are people who are like the blacksmiths of our tradition who do that sacred work. Just like we have people who are really, and those are alashes, or people who have a specific role that serves the community through that role. So we have alashes for everything. We have alashes for dressmaking. We have alashes for tool making. We have alashes for divining. We have alashes for beading, for woodwork. So the folks who make like the cauldron that I showed you guys, I'll bring the picture back up so you guys can see it. The cauldron is another, oh, I gotta put it on the right screen now. Hold on, I wanna put it on the right screen so you guys can see it. Where is it? Oh, here you go. Yeah, now I'll show that screen. Yeah, this one. So all of these tools, because there's no other place really, honestly, where these tools are used. This is really only Orisha stuff. So in Ogun's pots, I don't know when you were baptized in Oshun, Randy, if you received any implements for your Orisha or for any other Orisha. But in terms of the warriors, because some traditions only do like what we call a parada, where you have, I don't want to go into your stuff, but I don't know if you received this, I'll just say that. But someone literally, because this has only a function in our tradition. So someone made all of the items you see here. Someone's made this Ogun pot. Someone made the arrow that you see that looks like an arc. Someone made this key. Someone, the iron spikes come from the railroad generally, but there are numerous tools that are part of the Ogun pot. Same as there is this Osun staff. Those same folks who make these Osun staffs, and they're made in order to specifically in order to hold sacred items that are used at the time that they are born, and to be made a part of this at the time they are born. So So this is so that's the idea. So we have, I mean, when you get into the work of this tradition, you'll see a lot of different items that are generally made by hand by someone who is making it specifically for an Orisha, specifically for a person who is receiving it. That's true for all of the Osuns, even this one as well. This Osun was also made by someone who made this by hand, because this is not something, this is something specific to our practice. This is not something that has any other oh, okay, yeah, you went through the baptism. Yeah. That's what I meant. Randy, that I knew that the tradition was different in terms of the baptism, and they're different process. And we have a similar process. I won't go into the specifics of it, but we have a similar process for at that level for our traditions as well. Thank you for sharing. Advance, right. Thank you for sharing. So all of these, there's like a whole thing with, making sacred items for the Orisha, right? And there's a whole process and like an art to this. And so when you go to botanicas or you go to other places where things are sold and bought and sold for the Orisha, you'll see all different types of items like this, Raina, that are literally, like I say, there's no other place or way that any of these items are used. They're literally just used for sacred rites. So that's so I hope that answers your question, but it's really a an alashe tradition, as we call it, or someone who works their ashe, literally. So that's what that is, or owner of an ashe of a certain item or a certain way of working an item.
Thank you.
That's a good question. I've never been asked that before. But I've talked about the alashe traditions with my godchildren, so they have some knowledge of it. I've mentioned that we have alashes for different things. So, yeah. Any other questions? Reflections?
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have my leg by Monday, so I know what to do with Papa Leg by. I know what to do with my cauldron, but I don't really, to be honest with you, I don't know what to do with Osun. All I know
Yes.
to do is on Saturdays, what I will sometimes do is get all my warriors together and get like a cigar and some rum. But other than that, I don't know what to do with him.
Well, Osun, if you don't deal well, Osun is a sentinel, so you wait for Osun to warn you. You don't have any. If you have to do something with Osun, it's because something has happened to you. It is literally a sentinel or a guardian. So you don't have to work Osun. Like you don't have to work your head, you know what I mean? It's literally there to serve as a guardian for you. So if there's something that happens that like you have a fall or you have a health crisis or you have a something that happens that requires the intercession of Osun on your behalf, that's when Osun will come into form for you. So it's not an Orisha we work with. It's an Orisha we make sure we keep an eye on, and we make sure it's stable. So we know the difference between if you have it on the shaky shelf and his bell's always ringing, you never know when it's actually warning you versus when it's just wobbling, right? So, and you have it on a stick, so you'll know for sure if you have it in a place that is stable and isn't susceptible to waving, any instability in the area where it is, and it's stable. You'll know for sure if its bells are ringing. You'll know it's for a reason, right? So it's one of those, don't call us, we'll call you.
Gotcha.
So, that's why I didn't give you any instructions on Osun, except to just keep an eye on it and make sure that it's in a stable place.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, for like week by week, we go through individual Orishas, and I'm just
Mhm.
wondering, think, and in each one, in each case so far, I think that they've all have certain relationships with each other, and I'm just wondering what you think, like their relationships with each other say about our relationships with each, what they say about how we should relate to each other in community over.
That's another good question. I think, and I was actually reflecting on this earlier today. Some of you may know I founded an Isusu, and you familiar with Isusu, Randy? Randy May? No, no. Alana, I know they do have them in I do know for sure they have them in Canada because it comes from folks from Trinidad. Barbados folks do Susu too. Susu, Potomi Tan is called in Haiti.
Money, money, the money thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So so I founded one here, and yes, exactly the money thing, Alana. So it's a savings club where you pass the pot each month, and everyone puts into the pot, and then one person gets the full pot each month, and then you go around until everyone gets a pot. So I was just reflecting on this question of how they relate to each other because I was talking about how many of our traditions that we've inherited are collectivist in nature, right? And all of the story, there's no story, there's no pataki that has just one protagonist that acts on their own. There's nobody who goes through the pataki with having a problem, in a conflict, having a concern, a presenting concern, um, managing through it or navigating through it, and then coming out on the other end by themselves. There's always some energy, some entity, some connection with someone else that either tricks us into good, supports us through good, or in some cases carries us, through a thing so that we can, or helps us to see the good in ourselves some kind of way. So there's always some kind of way that we have either, Legba tricking us, as I mentioned when I was speaking about the times that he and Obatsala were when Obatsala was on the road and he didn't make the sacrifices his diviners told him to. And Alegba reminded him by putting palm oil on his all whites why it was important to make sacrifice. So there's always some kind of connection that we have that the Orishas show that they have with one another, that shows their true nature too with one another. So we know a lot about Obatala and Alegba through that encounter where Alegba did not take the clothes on the road he needed to, and Alegba, showing himself to be a little kid, oops, palm oil right over you, oops, charcoal right over you. And so we know a lot about the nature of Obatala and Alegba and in that interaction, even on its own, in terms of Obatala always being immaculate and in white, and Alegba always being a trickster and tricking us into our destiny. So something about that says to me how we should relate to each other is that there's something in making sure that we know that we do need each other. We do need to walk in our authenticity with ourselves and each other. And we should understand that we're not always going to do things right. We're not always going to be perfect, but if we show up in the world in a way that helps us to be, and we have willingness to do better and willingness to be different from where we've been, then that is all that's required of us. We're not ever required from any Orisha to be perfect. We're only required to be willing to do better and more than what we've done in order to, in ways that we're asked to, in order to further ourselves. So, and to know that we don't have to brave it up by ourselves. We don't have to be, um, these lone wolves that solve all of our own problems all the time. And that we have to, and the reason why we know so much about the Orisha, I think, is because we see a lot of, through the Pataki, we see a lot of how their true nature shows up, and that really doesn't change. And so when we try to show up in the world being what other people want us to be, or being morphing into, we call it code switching and all this other stuff. Sometimes code switching is connected to that too. We show up being all of these things that don't allow us to really be our true selves in the world. And capitalism brings that out in us. I won't get into all that. But it makes it difficult for us to really kind of have authentic connections with each other. And so I think we learn a lot about how necessary it is to get as close to our authenticity as we can, given the constraints we have in the world we live in, and to work towards that as best we can, so that we can actually be, at the end of the day, not as exhausted trying to fit into all these other modes of beingness for other people's comfort all the time, because that's exhausting. So I think it teaches us a lot about our being willing to work within and towards our better nature of ourselves, and to live authentically. And like I say, this, even the folks, priests in this tradition who I work with, who struggle with that, we all struggle with that. And we have a lot of controversies that come out of that, with how people treat folks based on ideas of what people in Orisha should be like or shouldn't be like. But at the end of the day, as my godmother told me, and the only reason why I joined my Ile that I'm in now, Ile Osikan, is that judgment belongs to Olodumare, period, dot. Does not belong to me as a priest of Oshun, does not belong to my godmother as a priest of Olegba. Okay, so I think getting closer to that, so that we can live in our true nature and our true authenticity, no matter where we go. I think that's the goal, so that we can have authentic engagements with Orisha and authentically grow, in ways that we're asked to from Orisha, so that we can know who they're talking to and not be confused. You know what I mean? That's my 2 cents about it. I can go on about that, because there's so much of that, so much inauthenticity that goes on, all for the wrong reasons, because of people's own false fears about stuff that don't matter, but I won't go into all that. I don't want to bore y'all. But I'm appreciative of everyone who came and asked the question. And I really like when we have opportunity to talk to one another and ask good questions, because you never know, somebody else may have thought the same question. So I always encourage everyone to ask and engage in as much as possible. I appreciate that. All right. So we're almost at 6:30, and next Friday we will be here, same time, same place. For those who normally do Saturday prayers, as some of y'all know, it's a Susu Saturday tomorrow, so I won't be, I won't have, and I took it off the calendar too, so you won't see anything on the calendar for tomorrow. Okay, so I am happy that we are able to spend this time together, and I'm glad to meet some folks I didn't know as well before. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again. And if you guys have any questions or anything that you have, like someone's question asked, made me think about a topic I can do for inner alignment I hadn't thought of before. So if you have any questions or suggestions of things you'd like to learn about, I'm very open to designing a course to respond to that. So don't be shy, because I'm learning, too, and reinforcing my learning as I teach. So I'm always looking forward to that as well. So please let me know. I appreciate your insights.
I thank you, Ia.
You're welcome.
I'm interested to hear more about that authenticity and how to be your authentic self.
Mm, okay,
I'll put that out there.
that would be an interesting class now, wouldn't it? Authenticity and inner alignment with Orisha, looking at different Orisha who remind us of that. That sounds like an interesting class now, doesn't it? I'm writing it down right now. I'm serious.
Can you do a class on a locum?
Yes, yes, I can. I have two alokuns, so I can do from two different traditions. So I can definitely do a class on a locum. A locum. I have some really great resources on that too that I can recommend as part of that class. But because initially my thought in doing this class was to do it in order of the order of Orisha, like the sacred order. But I'm willing to, do things a little differently. It doesn't have to be the sacred order. We can definitely do things in a different way. And I like the idea of doing a class on authenticity. And I can definitely do a class on Olokun worship. Actually, Olokun worship throughout the diaspora and on the continent. So I can definitely do a course on that. And that would, I think, be a good thing to talk about and to cover. All right. Well, it has been really great to see you guys. Some familiar, some meeting again, and I look forward to any new opportunities to engage with you guys.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
All right, y'all take care.
Okay.
You're welcome.